I think will serve the audience well if we can share with them maybe some times when we failed at casting vision and what were the consequences. So we haven't been perfect at this. None of us are. Can you think back, either of you guys, to specific times where, you maybe went a direction with your company, your team, and you tried to cast a vision and it failed?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I'm not sure if it was like necessarily me formally casting the vision to my team, or maybe just informally casting it by the way I live my life. But when I was running a real estate team, a traditional real estate team, the reason I got into real estate was for financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. So as I was starting to build out this team, because I saw that as the best way to live my life, having those freedoms, I wanted my team to also have that. And what I discovered through that was oftentimes maybe the agents that were on my team, some of them just didn't have the same maybe work ethic that I had. Other maybe things going on there, but it was almost like I was leading by example by having this freedom type lifestyle, even as a real estate agent, a producing real estate agent, and it just didn't work for them because they weren't willing to put in the short-term work that I put in. So I think by maybe informally casting a vision of, hey, this is how a real estate agent can have this freedom type lifestyle, they saw it as, well, I don't need to work that hard. But they didn't see the 2 years prior that I busted my butt to get to where I was. So it really didn't work that well. I tried to run my team where they could prospect kind of on their own times versus like the morning from 8 to 11, which is what it took me to build my business, was having that set prospecting time. Is more like, hey, you're your own boss. You make time for it. So I discovered through that process that I just didn't like managing people. I didn't like leading a team in a traditional sense, because I somewhat felt, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but I had created this amazing lifestyle for myself. And then I was hiring agents on my team to grind when I was already out of the grind phase and the thrive phase. So maybe I had some mindset stuff around that where it was like, well, I want them to have the same freedom that I have, but yet they didn't work for it yet. And essentially what ended up happening was I ran a team that was successful in its own right, close to 100 transactions a year, but could have been a lot more profitable. So if I were to redo it, I would have been a lot more strict with casting the vision of where the team's heading and helping them, like John did with the magazines, to find their own vision inside of a very clear structure of a team. But the solution to that was what we're doing now with EXPs. Is I can now cast this vision of a freedom lifestyle to my now team of over 6,500 agents, and they're able to do the activities that allow for that type of freedom. So it's been cool to see how my, I guess, vision mindset failed in one model, at least in my mind, was kind of a failure in the sense of how I felt about it, and now has thrived beyond my wildest imagination in this different model. So that was cool, kind of looking at the agenda for today and reflecting back on that 5 years ago, the last time I was running the team. So that was cool.
Yeah, and I'll kind of pick up there, answering your question, John, but tying in what AJ just said. In a lot of ways, I think we're all limited a little bit. I think, John, I first heard this this quote, and it's not credited to anyone, but the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. And you and I shared that closed mindedness when it came to AJ's view or his experience, building a different type of real estate organization. And so to answer the question, either you're listening and you're not in the game yet, right? You haven't figured out how to sell 30, 40 homes, and you're not sort of doubling down and just doing, like, there's just no secret to being successful in real estate anymore. You could just go to YouTube and follow us or follow others that have done it, and they're teaching you how to sell 100 homes, and you'll dismiss it and say, like, either you dismiss it or you're like, man, I could do that too. So you've got to figure that part out first. AJ was able to figure it out. John was able to figure it out. I was able to figure it out. We didn't know each other back in the day, so we all did it independently. And then once you get to that sort of traditional top producer level focus, then really you have a decision to make. The thing about AJ's vision, and he's sort of the youngest OG, probably that I'll ever know. The thing that I didn't truly understand, and this is maybe where I was thinking even smaller. So I was completely closed off to an opportunity because I thought it had to be a certain way. So if you're selling 25 homes a year now and you're like, that's top 1.51%, right? And you're not thinking bigger than that. I was at a point where like, no, a real estate team is the way to do it. I created massive leverage. It is super hard, right? And the type of freedom AJ was looking for, I hadn't really contemplated. Well, two things really. I mean, I thought I had financial freedom until I look at what we're doing now and just like, holy shnikes. But the other freedom was location freedom. Like never have I been able to, I was out 22 of 31 days in March and, did a 6-figure month in just the revenue share opportunity, which is just, it's wild when you think about it. So my miss on the vision side is like, what could it look like? Is it possible? Instead of dismissing, because so many people, and again, we talk about EXP because we're freaking excited about it. It's not the EXP show. At the same time, if you're sort of like a little bit like you think you know what it is, I promise you don't know what it is, right? John and I, we dismissed it, super closed off to it.
For years.
Yeah, and it was a lack of vision around it.
What do they say? A lot of times your initial success prevents you from your ultimate success. So like you were really successful, right? Like, and you had a vision that got you there that I think you were probably still holding on to. How is that changed?
Yeah, right. And now it's like, I had like 10 or 12 agents in my world and my success was through them. Actually quite selfish. If I'm being honest, it was like, how can this provide me a level of freedom? But I saw my agents, my top agents, they were all successful, but they worked evenings and weekends. I mean, they were grinding all the time, 5-6 years into my doing 100 transactions, but grinding. Right. And they were okay with it because I provided stuff that they couldn't do on their own. So thinking I could like impact 10 or 12 lives, like, what could it look like? And just grinding them out and having agents leave and not really providing a big enough opportunity for them. Like what it could. Now my vision is like, I will, because I've seen it modeled. I will have 6,000 agents in my direct organization that I'm improving their lives significantly. They have to show up, right? They have to do the work. But now I'm able to like, quite realistically, I know that's going to happen, right? Yeah. I know that I'll have 6,000 agents in Real Estate B School powered by EXP Realty. It's a subset of Game Changers Nation, and we're all sort of helping each other achieve that vision. And in a million years, I wouldn't have thought that way before. Like thousands of agents that I'm partnered with versus like trying to corral 10 or 12 agents to stay in my world as long as they possibly could. And then when they leave, they're just gone forever. And you really don't help them or even talk to them, after they give you years of their life. So that's kind of how my vision has shifted. Is like, this is an infinite game that we're playing now. There's just no shortage on it. It's pretty wild.